So, today I'm going to create the world of the Sprunki in the game Spore, and I'm going to start by creating Oren. So I'm adding this base with a single leg, and by combining these black and white semicircles, I'm giving him his facial expression. And this is pretty much the base for all the Sprunki. So I'm going to give him what makes him unique. First, I add the bangs. Then, I combine these semicircles with this wire to make the headphones. He's probably listening to dark metal. Now, we're going to transform him into this abomination, with what looks like ketchup dripping from his eyes, his ribs sticking out, and his heart exposed. Oh my god. Let's see how he turned out in both versions. Oh god. Now, let's create Raddy. I start by giving him a red base and changing his expression to an angry one. Shaping these cylinders, I add the horns. Next, let's craft his horror version. I split his face in two. On one side, I use this semicircle to form one half. On the other, with these black and white pieces, I create the skull. I add the teeth, shrink his body, and though I'm not a doctor, it seems his intestines are hanging out. Oh god. Finally, with these brown pieces, I make the rope around his neck. Now, let's see how he turned out. So far, everything's fine. But this thing, oh my god. I'm going to dream about this for a week. And now we're going to do Clukr or something like that. I start by giving it this kind of traumatized expression, like, oh god. Then I add this sort of cutting disc on its head. I call it a cutting disc because in this horror version, I'm going to use a semicircle to make half of its head. I'm adding the details and giving him these disturbing eyes. And this expression looks like their head literally exploded. To finish it off, I add splatters on the face. Subscribe so YouTube doesn't ban me. This version turned out just fine, but the other one really reminds us just how important it is to wear proper safety gear on the job. Now let's move on to creating Funbot. To make the visors, I'm going to use this yellow ring and shape it until it looks something like this. Then I add these little details, and with these light blue pieces, I make the eyes and the mouth. To finish it off, I add the antennas and a few more details. And let's see how it turned out. Oh, and the horror version? It's basically the same, just with a sad face. And now I'm going to make Vineria. For the hair, I'm going to use these plant pieces, and once the hairstyle is more or less done, I add this branch and these flowers, which are just perfect. Now, I want to make her horror version. So instead of eyes, I leave these black holes. I remove the pretty details and give her this cursed expression. And now, my favorite part. To stretch out the eyes, I'm going to use arms. I finish them off with these red, white, and black little balls. I shape a bunch of these red beads to look like dripping blood. This is basically a case of what you ordered online versus what actually shows up. And now I want to create Gray, who has this expression like he went to a family birthday party and no one gave him the Wi-Fi password. I outline the face in black, and to finish it off, I add these facial details. Then I shape these cubes to make his pointy ears. The horror version is very similar, just he looks way more terrified. And now I'm going to make Brud. So I start with this brown base, and I change the eyes until it looks right, each one looking in a different direction. I put this metal bucket on its head as a helmet to protect it from its trauma. I rip off half its face to make the horror version. By shaping these semicircles, I take out a chunk of the head. And I don't know the lore, but it's also missing a piece of its body. So I make the ribs and add some final details. Let's see how this poor creature turned out. Oh god. Let's move on to creating Garnold. Basically, I'm making a Daft Punk. And for the horror version of Garnold, it's still a Daft Punk, but after a zombie attack. Wrapped it up with a cracked visor, a suspiciously perfect smile, and a splash of what is absolutely not ketchup. So far so good, but this version, pure nightmare fuel. Oh god. And now I'm going to make OWAKCX, who I think is the one out of all the Sprunkis with the craziest looking face. Once I finish the face, I'll do the hair using these arm-like pieces, and it ends up looking something like this. Now, let's turn him into the horror version. Using this red semicircle, I make the exposed flesh, and with these white pieces, I create the teeth. Now I want to add this effect, like the skin has been ripped off his face and body. Alright, let's see how it turned out. This is pure madness. Oh god. And now I'm going to make Sky. To create the hair, I'm using an arm piece. Then I add these ears. And so far, it looks like a cute little teddy bear. But in the horror version, it's like a fusion between Happy Tree Friends and Final Destination. To finish it off, I give it this expression, crossed by this bar. Oof, that looked painful. And now, let's see how it turned out. This one came out almost cute. But this image is definitely going to be burned into my retina. And now, luckily, it's time for Mr. Sun. So I make this happy-faced sun using these geometric pieces. For the horror version, I add this giant eyeball. Let's see how it turned out. And also check out the other version. Oh god. When it blinks, the whole city literally goes dark. Now let's move on to Durple, who kind of looks like a demonic eggplant. So for the cursed version, it still looks like an eggplant, but a deeply traumatized one. Let's see how it turned out. Going on vacation, expectations versus reality. reality. Oh god. And now I'm going to use this Sprunki base to make Mr. Tree. So, for the normal version, I give him this happy face. And for the horror version, I make this attempt at a paper with some text on it. And I draw this silhouette that's supposed to be the face of what looks like a little girl. I promise, I tried to draw the Mona Lisa and ended up summoning a demon. I tried to undo the curse, and now, let's see how this cursed tree turned out. Oh yeah, this version definitely has roots of evil. Next, I want to make Simon. So I start with this hairstyle, and using these geometric pieces, I add some details until he looks like a lemon with antennas. But the interesting part is the horror version. It's like he went on vacation to a beach full of radioactive waste and came back a little different with these giant teeth. Let's check out the contrast. With teeth like that, he could eat an apple in one bite. So let's create Tunner. This one's a bit simpler. I use these semicircles to make the hair and these others to make the hat. But the horror version is more interesting because you have to tweak the expression a bit and add this hole in the head. Let's see how it turned out. Oh god, now let's create Mr. Fun, who apparently is a computer with a face and legs. So I start by building this old school monitor, the kind that used to give you radiation. I give it this kawaii face and a hat using these colorful pieces. And I can't forget the table with legs. For the horror version, we swap out the happy face for one full of trauma. So I'm going to try drawing the face using a bunch of these little stones. Alright, let's see how it turned out. This version looks good, but this other one, oh god, it's the face of a man who's seen the worst corners of the internet. Anyway, I'm going to create Wenda. I make the eyes by combining these semicircles with some wires. I copy the eyebrows to use them as a mouth, and by shaping these cubes into triangles, I make the cat ears. Then I add the rest of the little details, and to finish it off, I add some shading. Now let's turn her into the horror version. I modify the eyes to give her this disturbing expression, and with these red stones, I add this stain, which is definitely not ketchup. So here's Wenda during the day, and here she is at night. Oh god. Now, let's move on to creating Pinki. I change the eyes a bit to make them look more slanted, add these bunny ears, and shape some circles to make the bow. And I think this is my favorite horror version so far. I swap out the eyes for these trauma-filled ones, and with these red pieces, I make the face explosion. I need to see how this turned out. So far so good. Oh no, poor thing. Even her mirror had to take a vacation. Now, to make Jevin, I start with this base using a deep blue color, and by combining it with these cubes, I build this kind of hood. For the horror version, I add this shadow over the eyes. Let's see how it turned out. And now, we're getting closer to the world of the Sprunki. Alright, now it's time to create black. I build the base, and using a bunch of these little stones, I make this face, literally the one I see during sleep paralysis. But I also want to make this non-canon version, so using these semicircles, I create the eyes, and by shaping these other parts, I make the hat. To finish it off, I use these semi-cylinders to make the white tie. Alright, now it's time to visit the world of the Sprunki to see what they're up to. And here they all are. Looks like they're having a party. Not sure if they're getting ready for Christmas or something like that. Let's see what these two are doing. And yeah, something is definitely not right with this Sprunki. Anyway, I'll leave black here, and let's explore the Sprunki world a bit more. There's so much to see, like these trees, these clouds, these green things. Yeah, trees, clouds, and green things. For now, everything seems peaceful, but what happens when night falls? Looks like the party got out of control, because this is starting to feel more like a Halloween party. Oh my god, I forgot about that horrifying thing. Okay, I'd better wrap up the video, because I think that thing is hungry. Oh my god, I'm gonna go figure out how to escape this. Let me know what monstrosity I should make next. Until then, see you in the next nightmare.